It has been a big summer for Hollywood blockbusters. We got new movies for Transformers, Indiana Jones, and Mission Impossible, and I couldn't make videos to tie into any of them because I was too busy taking a power duke on The Flash. So what say I take the next few episodes to play catch-up on the big summer movie releases? Yeah, well, I don't care if it's a bad idea. The Flash review was exhausting, and I want a few softballs. Anyway, remember in Transformers Rise of the Beast when some robots who could turn into animals showed up and barely had jack shit to do with the movie? Yeah, those were the Maximals, and they originated from a 90s computer-generated cartoon series called Beast Wars. It was kind of a sequel to the original G1 Transformers cartoon where futuristic Transformers got stranded on Earth's prehistoric past, because Transformers lore started out really damn complicated with extensive time travel shenanigans. Beast Wars showcased CG animation that looks dated today but was groundbreaking for its time, and due to the budget restrictions of running a computer-generated show, forced the series to stick to a small cast of characters that would be richly developed over the show's brief lifespan. G1 gets the glory for starting the franchise, but Beast Wars gave all future Transformers incarnations a gold standard to follow in terms of writing, character, drama, and action. No matter how many old-style fans chanted, "Truck, not monkey!"
Shut up, Rat Trap.
Beast Wars received 2 tie-in video games. The first, for PCs, was a third-person action shooter that runs like janky puke! Dear God! Can we swap that out for footage from the PlayStation version? There we go. That makes my eyes bleed less. The PlayStation game looks kinda neat, kinda exactly what you'd hope for from a Transformers game released in the brave new era of 3D console gaming, the kind of thing that could be refined into a great sequel a few years later. And the series got another crack at tie-in games with Beast Wars Transmetals on the Nintendo 64. And it was a cheap-ass one-on-one fighter with 8 characters and no actual content past a stock ladder mode. And it was released exclusive to blockbusters because nobody had any faith in it. Man, Beast Wars got screwed! So yeah, Beast Wars Transmetals is a 2.5D fighting game. You launch attacks with the controller's directional C buttons, and 1 button each for light, medium, and heavy attacks, plus a block. The big gimmick to the gameplay, though, is that at any point in combat, you can use the A and B buttons to transform between your character's 3 modes: Robot, Vehicle, and Beast Mode. Yeah, midway through the series, some of the characters got transmetal upgrades that gave them new powers and made them look like ass. So you have 3 forms to cycle between. In robot form, you have guns to land heavy damage on your opponent, but you move extremely slowly, and if you stay a robot for too long, you get stunned. This was a plot point in the show that the air was poisonous to non-organics because it had so much raw energon, which had stopped being a thing by the time these transmetal forms were introduced. In vehicle mode, you're lightning fast and can race circles around your opponent with homing weapons and a dashing move, but the speed makes it kinda hard to land consistent damage. Although your definition of vehicle may need to change. Optimus goes from a gorilla to a gorilla on a surfboard, and Megatron goes from a T-Rex to a T-Rex with jetpack hips. And in beast form, you have devastating melee attacks, added agility, and you can recharge the robot mode, but melee attacks can be hard to land consistently. I'll be honest, this is a friggin' brilliant system for making a fighting game with Transformers characters. It's the perfect way to incorporate the franchise's central mechanic to add freshness to a well-trodden genre and inject identity and uniqueness into what could otherwise be a generic title. I just wish the actual combat were better developed so this great idea wasn't wasted on such a mediocre game. There are 8 playable characters, technically 13, but we'll get to that. On the good guy side, we have Optimus Primal, Rat Trap, Cheetor, and Airazor, and on the bad guy side, we've got Megatron, Tarantulas, Waspinator, and Pterosaur. One could question the roster, since Airazor, Waspinator, and Pterosaur never got transmetal forms in the show, and 2 of them were written out or killed halfway through the show before transmetals were a thing. Oh, never mind, they had transmetal toys, and it is depressingly on brand to pick characters based on who has the most merchandise versus actual show relevance. Gotcha. Hey, Pterosaur is supposed to hold his wings like machetes. Can we just give him goofy mile-long arms and call it a day? We can? Nobody likes Pterosaur anyway? Alright, cool. I had to meticulously go through, test, and catalog every character to figure out what the hell the difference is between them, because most of the roster plays out 90% the same. Each character will have maybe one or two attacks that are almost kinda unique, and the rest will just kind of be a stock cloned moveset that's completely interchangeable with the other characters. Rat Trap can burrow underground, Primal's got a ground pound, Pterosaur's got a spinning dive in beast mode, and half the cast has a projectile in beast mode. The rest of their attacks are the same as everyone else. Megatron and Air Razor are the only two that feel less homogenized, because they each get 3 unique moves apiece. Megs gets a Shockwave, Breath Weapon, and a medium-ranged area effect Tail Slam, because suck it, Primal!
I, Megatron, have triumphed. Yes.
I'm not even convinced the stats they flash up for each character mean a damn thing. Air Razor has the lowest firepower rating, and yet she has insanely powerful exploding spinning tops that she can chuck out like candy off a St. Patrick's Day float. And just in case these stats actually do mean anything, what in the hell do intelligence, rank, courage, and skill have to do with a fighting game? And why does Tarantulas the mad scientist have the lowest intelligent rating? Son of a bitch, that's another shout out to the toy line. I feel like half the game's staff didn't even watch the show that they were adapting at this point. The only character that gets a special mechanic of any kind is Waspinator, because with no indication or explanation whatsoever, Waspinator has a projectile that blocks transforming, letting you trap an opponent in robot form while stunned. And this edition makes it almost pointless to do anything else while playing as the guy.
Waspinator rules!
Tarantulas also has a web shot that freezes enemies, but my hand to Primus, I could not get the damn thing to hit a single frickin' target. But the almost completely interchangeable nature of the roster is only the first problem. The mechanics and general balance are really where this whole thing falls apart. First of all, the vehicle mode is almost completely useless. The robot mode can land shots on speeding vehicles no problem with C-up homing projectiles, and unless you're playing on very easy difficulty, the vehicle form's attacks are pretty piss easy to dodge. And if you are playing on very easy, then you can just circle strafe all the enemies to death. In fact, I often found that using the vehicle mode was basically asking your opponent to charge their super move that knocks off half your health and cannot be dodged, since odds are good you won't be able to interrupt them by landing a solid hit. The vehicle form that was meant for high-speed dodging instead turns into a giant kick me sign reading, "Please blow me the fuck up." By pressing the R button, you can sacrifice a chunk of your health to send out a discharge that knocks your opponent back from you. This discharge doubles as a shield to interrupt and counter anything and everything your opponent is doing. It covers a wide area and is damn hard to dodge, and I've seen it hit your opponent for as much damage as you spent to use it. I've been in fights where the AI takes an early lead and then abuses the shit out of the discharge to just mow me down to where I can't do anything. And that's not even the cheapest that the combat gets. Let me lay out for you how your typical fight goes once you reach medium difficulty or higher. There are no combo moves. You can't chain attacks together or use multiple attack buttons in tandem. Every button throws one attack that, more often than not, knocks your opponent down. Yeah, you take pretty much any hit and it knocks you flat on your ass with no recovery mechanic to get back up. You get a split second of invulnerability when you stand up, and that's it. So here's what you do. Fire anything to knock your opponent down once, start charging an attack when they get back up, and release your charged shot so that it slams into them the instant that their invincibility wears off. Repeat until dead. You have now effectively stun-locked your opponent. If you play on any difficulty above easy, the game eventually just devolves into seeing which fighter can stun-lock the other long enough to eke out a win. Knock down your opponent, shoot them again as soon as they stand back up. Your only options for breaking out of a stun-lock loop are the block and the discharge, neither of which make it very easy to fire back and turn the tide. If the fight goes long enough that you both run out of robot power, the game turns into mud wrestling with the vehicle and beast forms, which is where the differences in the roster come into play. See, a full half of the roster can still shoot projectiles while in beast mode. and Megatron has a lot of strong melee options with great range and area effect. Half the characters can keep fighting unimpeded in Beast Mode, but Rat Trap, Tarantulas, and friggin' Optimus Primal? No. If they run out of Robot Mode power, they're screwed. Shitty melee moves are their only plan B. Did you ever think you'd see the day when Optimus, arguably the series protagonist, is the worst character in a Transformers game? How do you fail that hard?
Well, that's just Prime.
But the bigger problem here, because the characters all play and fight the same, the combat is so simplified, and the gameplay so unbalanced and easy to crack, every friggin' fight plays out almost exactly the same. You never have to change tactics depending on who you're fighting, and you just favor a few slightly different moves when you change characters. You don't practice to learn how a character works and how to tailor your playstyle to their strengths and weaknesses. You just fire as much crap at your opponent as you can and hope to land a hit before they do. Unless you play on easy to where you can screw around a little bit and have some fun, that's how every round plays out. I took every character through the ladder mode to look for and catalog differences, and I was sick of this game about halfway through. Like I said earlier, the game has 8 playable characters, but technically it has 13. See, you have the option of playing as secret characters Tigatron, Ravage, Starscream, and Black Arachnia, in addition to the game's base roster. Just hold down the Z button while selecting certain characters, and the hidden roster appears as selectable. So, what's the catch? Tigatron and Ravage are just palette swaps of and play exactly the same as Cheetor. And pretty lazy swaps too. Tigatron is just solid silver, and Ravage is just solid black. Starscream is a palette swap of Waspinator. I don't remember Starscream ever being solid green, but whatever. Black Arachnia actually does have her own character model though, like she was the one who came the closest to getting her own actual slot on the roster. But she still has the same moves as Tarantulas, already one of the most generic fighters in the game. And I have no idea what this Black Arachnia character model is actually based on, because she doesn't look a thing like her horny-ass models in the show, nor can I find any action figure that looks a thing like this. Each of the hidden characters has their own voice actor and their own ladder mode ending, so it's not like they were just lazily thrown in at the last second. Like, the game clearly had budget problems, but it feels like there was real ambition here, and they just ran out of time or money or both, and had to abort a ton of stuff at the last minute. At one point, the game was going to have its own custom Transformers feature, where using a transfer pack would randomize a new original character for you to use, and they had to scrap the idea even though it sounds awesome. Can you imagine plugging in a Pokemon Yellow version and getting a Pikachu Beast Wars Transformer? Maybe this time my Yellow version wouldn't get erased! But there is one more hidden character that actually did make it into the game. Kind of. In plain sight, yet always out of reach. If you complete the ladder mode without using a continue, you get a secret boss battle with Megatron X, a souped-up version of Megatron with huge wings, more energy, and a second health bar. And if he sounds like a massive pain in the ass to fight, don't worry, actually beating him does absolutely nothing. Win or lose, you get the same ending. The Japanese version of the game lets you play as Megatron X by plugging in a transfer pack and the Beast Wars Game Boy game. This Easter egg was removed from the American version, probably because the Game Boy game was only released in Japan. However, when emulation became a thing, fans cracked into the game's code and found out that Megatron X is still in the game's playable roster, just with no in-game way to unlock him, trapped behind a door that has no key. It wasn't until this year, 2023, that fans reverse-engineered a Game Shark code that finally makes Megatron X playable on real hardware. Over 20 years of the guy being sealed away in coding purgatory, and now you can play as the cheating bastards yourself. He plays just like Megatron, only cheaper. Okay, Beast Wars kind of fell into a nostalgia hole for me where I was too young to remember most of what happened in it, but I was looking up clips online for this review, and there actually is a part in Beast Wars where Megatron turns into a dragon. Megatron X is kind of canon, only here he doesn't look like Megatron in a cheap dragon onesie pajamas. Something else I learned from my research: there was a canceled episode of Beast Wars that would have had the show's female characters breaking off to form their own faction, and that episode was titled Bitch Wars. I am not kidding. They cut the episode because they couldn't figure out how to make the premise work, and not because it was titled Bitch Wars. Beating the campaign just gets you a few paragraphs of text of what your character did after winning the Beast Wars. The good guy crawls are all pretty generic. Good guys win, everybody goes home, yada yada yada. But the Predacon endings get kinda nuts. Megatron abuses the time travel to kill Optimus Prime in his sleep, leading to the Decepticons winning the original series. And then Unicron eats them all because Optimus had the one thing that could stop him. Tarantulas goes, "Screw you guys," quits the war, and then goes home to rat everyone out to the secret police. Pterosaur overthrew Megatron and led the Predacons to victory, and then led them to Earth's Ice Age, with all the Predacons being frozen in place, conscious, for several thousand years. And Waspinator flew into a murderous rampage, curb-stomped both sides himself, and then quit to be a deity for ancient cavemen. Given that Megatron X's localization was never completed, I guess it shouldn't surprise me that beating the campaign with him just locks the game. But in the Japanese version, he had a ladder ending where he basically goes off to fight God. There are a few extras past the ladder mode. There's a kid mode that's just the regular versus mode, but with the characters scrunched down into chibis for some reason. There are quick draw, coin collecting, and racing minigames that you'll play once, get bored, and move on. And the racing isn't any kind of actual driving game. You just mash buttons and hope the game feels nice about reading them. The only really good extra is the toy mode, where you can study the character models and make them transform for you. I don't know, I got a real kick out of it.
Beast mode. Vehicle mode. Maximize.
For the Nintendo 64's primitive graphics, the models don't look all that bad. All except for Optimus Primal, who looks woefully under-detailed because his Transmetal form was trying to look organic. I think. His Transmetal form looked like butt! This is why Optimal Optimus was a thing! I absolutely love the concept of Beast Wars Transmetals. It was a brilliant idea to combine Transformers and tournament fighters by giving each character multiple forms with full movesets to switch between at will. They just didn't have the budget, the time, or, quite frankly, the talent to pull off the idea. Since before making Transmetals, the dev team's experience lay in making racing games.
Janasia. Yes.
That said, there were a lot of contentless fighting games on the Nintendo 64 that didn't give you shit apart from a ladder mode and 10 characters. If you were lucky, and then charged $50 for the pleasure, it was a friggin' epidemic. I mean, as mediocre as Transmetals is, I like it better than War Gods. How in the actual hell do you do special moves? Combos? A single projectile? Anything other than a single kick followed by a full second of just sitting there? Oh, eat shit! You get to throw 10 attacks in a row, and I'm stuck with one punch! This is the first fight of the game! God damn it! I like Transmetals better than Mace the Dark Age. So, basically what I'm getting here is that if I fight somebody who's faster than me, I am hosed. And I like Transmetals a lot more than Dark Rift, which I only own at my ex's behest. My god, this is clunky. These are the slowest moving fighters that I've ever seen. So are there any actual special moves, or do I just button mash the same 3 attacks over and over and pray the barely responsive dodge actually works at some point? At the end of the day, Beast Wars Transmetals runs at a great speed, it has really smooth and responsive controls, and you don't have to look up combos online to get it to work right. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. I've played worse. This just could have been so much better if it were in more capable hands.
Anytime.
Maybe one day they'll retry this concept with a proper Transformers fighting game. One that isn't free-to-pay mobile dreck.
Vehicle mode. Beast mode. Vehicle mode. Terrorize.